And if that wasn't crazy enough, there was actually a third building that did the same, that wasn't even hit by a tower, the World Trade Center 7, I believe, that wasn't even hit by a plane. It had a tiny little fire on a few floors, and all of a sudden that collapsed through the path of greatest resistance into its own footprint at free fall speed. So, back in 2001, ironically, I graduated from university with an engineering degree. And I can remember that summer after I graduated going back to my parents' house and not having a job that summer and just chilling, having fun, watching telly. And one day, being sat watching the telly when a news report came on about a plane that had flown into a skyscraper in the United States. And I remember telling my parents about it, shouting out the window. They were like sunbathing in the garden. "Hey Mum, Dad, there's a plane flown into a skyscraper." And they're like, "Oh, blimey." And like they think it might be terrorists. I remember at some point, I'm sure I remember my mum saying, "Was it Bin Laden?" And so, being an avid reader all their life of the Daily Telegraph, a UK newspaper, they'd obviously been prepped in some way to believe that it would be Bin Laden even before it happened, or when it happened. So I watched it all happen live, both towers go down, or yeah, second plane crash, both towers collapsing, and I bought it all hook, line and sinker, like they said, like plane flies into tower, tower collapses. Obviously the plane that caused the tower to collapse, wasn't it? Obviously. A plus B equals C. And so I just went along with the general story that it was carried out by Muslims with box cutters, and just sort of forgot about it. And oh well, we're under attack by terrorists. And I think I was suspicious about the wars being oriented towards, you know, going after the oil. I remember the Iraq war previously when I was at uni. I thought, this is suspicious, they're probably just going after the oil. But I had no idea what was really going on. And so it wasn't until 6 years later that one of my friends handed me a DVD or a CD with a movie on it, and says, "Watch this, you're going to love this," knowing that I was already a bit skeptical about the Iraq war and that. And so I took it home, and what it was, he downloaded Transformers, the movie, off a file sharing network, pirate illegally. But it wasn't Transformers the movie, it was a movie called Loose Change 9/11 second edition recut. And it was a conspiracy movie about 9/11. And so what happened that day was that my life got completely ripped to pieces, because having graduated with an engineering degree 6 years prior and having a basic understanding of mechanical principles and how when a building collapses, it doesn't collapse through the path of greatest resistance at free fall speed, at the speed of gravity, into its own footprint. And two buildings definitely don't collapse at free fall speed through the path of greatest resistance into their own footprint. And if that wasn't crazy enough, there was actually a third building that did the same, that wasn't even hit by a tower, the World Trade Center 7, I believe, that wasn't even hit by a plane. It had a tiny little fire on a few floors, and all of a sudden that collapsed through the path of greatest resistance into its own footprint at free fall speed. And I was like, holy shit! Because having the engineering knowledge, once it was presented to me in this manner, I could instantly see that it was what I thought at the time was clearly a controlled demolition. Well, I could see that it clearly didn't happen by accident, that the official story was clearly complete nonsense. So that video completely changed my life. My attitude from that very instant, there was no doubt in my, well, the doubts came up, the conditioning and the programmed physical mind kept doubting, surely there can't be a, I knew it happened because I had the engineering, I understood mechanics, I understood the physics of it, and I understood that it was completely impossible. So the way my brain was working after that, it was saying, well, if they'd lie about this, what else would they lie about? And from there on, my entire life got absorbed with conspiracy theories, and I went researching everything, which sort of led me to where I am today. And I spent a good year trying to convince everyone I knew that 9/11 was an inside job. I remember when I first discovered it, I was like so excited to tell everyone. I was like, "Why, you won't believe what I've discovered! Fucking George Bush and the cronies took down the towers themselves." And I was so excited to tell everyone. I was like, I couldn't wait to tell everyone. And like when I went to tell everyone like I just thought I didn't believe. I presumed they'd just believe me. I didn't, because I'd never. I guess most of the people knew I was fairly intelligent and sort of respected my point of view. So when I went to tell people, I expected them to believe me. And I couldn't believe it when I started telling people. And they were just like blank walling me. Like, I'd go up to them and tell them, and I expected them to be like, "Whoa, what are you talking about? I can't believe this. This is amazing, incredible. How can they do that?" But they wouldn't. What had happened, they'd just sort of go blank. And this blank look had come across their face, and they'd be like, "Don't believe that." I'm like, "What? Look at it, look at the evidence. It's fucking there, man. Look at the fucking evidence." And like, no one believed me, and I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't believe it. I was out telling everyone, and no one believed me. I had perhaps one or two friends that were like, maybe, it does look a bit dodgy. But no one believed me, and I couldn't believe it. I could not believe that no one believed me. It just shocked me. I just wasn't expecting it. I just presumed that everyone would see it as clearly as me. And so I spent the next year trying to convince everyone that 9/11 was an inside job, and just no one was interested. No one wanted to know. Everyone like went blank wall, can't deal with it, not dealing with this, not interested in that reality. Go away, don't want to know, don't want to know. I'm happy with my comfy little ignorance is bliss life. And no one wanted to know. So after a year or two of trying to convince everyone, I sort of came to the conclusion that it wasn't working, that like it just didn't work. So I came to the conclusion that the reason people couldn't accept this is because their consciousness wasn't high enough. And over the next couple of years, in 2009, I had this massive spiritual awakening into like what the Hindu teachings call the bliss body, and experienced connection to everything, and like bliss and expansion and telepathy and all these expansions. And so that was really a lot more mind-blowing than finding out 9/11 was an inside job, finding out you're like part of infinite consciousness. So, and really I decided that what I needed to do to enable people to see that this was an inside job was to raise their consciousness. And that was really the path. I decided I was wasting my time. I spent a year every day of my life trying to convince everyone that 9/11 was an inside job, and no one wanted to know. Everyone was just like going blank, like, can't hear you, can't see you, you're not there, don't want to know. And so I decided that the way forward was to pursue the path of, I guess, being a spiritual teacher and trying to raise people's consciousness through everything I had learnt about spiritual awakening, and hoping that at some point people's consciousness would get to the point where they were capable of facing the possibility that 9/11 was an inside job, and seeing that our entire reality was a lie, so that we can begin building a new reality. And here I am, 2017, 2018, sorry, 11 years later, and still most of those people that I was trying to convince that 9/11 was an inside job, they're still not interested in awakening, not interested in conspiracies. I think some of them like very sort of suspect that it was an inside, but they don't want to know. They just want to watch telly, drink beer, watch football, go to bed, get up, live happily ever after with their family. And so here we are, 2018. The conspiracy scene has gone insane. It's like, it's no longer just trying to convince people that 9/11 is an inside job. If you follow like Corey Goods and like the David Wilcock material, that I'm still sort of processing myself, still sort of slightly on the fence. I sense my intuition, and a lot of, I guess, signs are pointing me to the fact that the secret space program and the Corey Good material is real, but it's insane. But so here we are, 2018, sheeple still asleep. And so here we are. So where do we go from here? What's the next step? Do we try and wake people up to the conspiracies? Do we just continue plodding along, following our excitement, sharing our spiritual message? Where do we go from here? What's the next step? How do we wake the sheeple up? What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? The planet's gonna die. The planet's gonna fucking die if they don't wake up soon. What are we gonna fucking do?